Today, I am going to attempt to answer a very vague, yet important question about our beloved game. Why is old school RuneScape fun? Now, the answer is slightly different for everyone, so I'm going to hone in specifically on what separates this game from all the others. In other words, what is the identity of the game? On nearly every content proposal, there is bound to be at least a few people chatting about something feeling or not feeling old school. It's like there's this omnipresent truth that we're all aware of and respect, but the lines sometimes get blurry on what exactly it entails. So let's draw some lines. I've given this a lot of thought, and I believe I can break down this elusive identity into three big pillars. Firstly, we have game mechanics. Or in other words, the feel of playing old school. How you command your player within the game, the unique attributes of the game engine, these things fall into this pillar. The second one is what I'm going to call dopamine diversity. There are a million different things to do within this game, and each one presents a different set of challenges as well as reward pathways. Some are mechanically hard but linearly rewarding, and some are AFK but require immense luck to get the desired outcome. This diversity, in my opinion, is a special sauce that I personally think gets overlooked quite often, and is why the game is so incredibly immersive. And lastly, permanence of progression. This one's probably more obvious. It was highlighted very strongly by all of the WoW players that gave RuneScape a shot, and as I'm sure many people agree, it's absolutely vital to our identity. Alright, Pillar 1. Let's jump into game mechanics. Old school RuneScape operates on its own handcrafted, in-house game engine. It doesn't use Unity, it doesn't use Unreal Engine, it uses spaghetti. But it's the goddamn tastiest spaghetti you've ever had in your whole life. Now, the code of the engine is archaic and difficult to work with. We've heard the engine work excuse of why we can't have nice things over and over again from Jagex mods. But the engine is a huge reason why old school feels old school. The tick system, the tiles on the map, the way the player paths from point A to point B, these are all critical attributes that are fundamental to the feel of the game. Now, in this context, when I'm talking about feel, I'm talking about what it's like to actually click your mouse and command your player to do something. If we took 10 random games and stripped away all of the content and artwork, just leaving a stick figure on a blank canvas, many games would feel identical and be unrecognizable from each other. But RuneScape? You would know which game RuneScape is. And that is the feel of the game. That comes from the engine. Now, in my opinion, the biggest heavy lifter of this pillar is the tick system. OSRS runs at an incredibly slow tick rate, only sending server packets once every 0.6 seconds. To put this in perspective, most games run at a bare minimum 10 times faster than that. A first-person shooter like Counter-Strike can run it up to 128 ticks per second. Some other fast-paced competitive games like Rocket League sit at 60 ticks per second, and even an old casual game where smooth network updates are less important, like Minecraft, still clocks in at 20 ticks per second. Meanwhile, we come in at a blazingly fast 1.67 ticks per second. This means that a game like Counter-Strike is interacting with the server 76 times more frequently than RuneScape. For every time you hit a monster with a dragon scimitar, a CS player has talked with the server 307 times. So why is this good? It's a relic of the time that the game was originally created in, but it is the happiest of mistakes. In a way, a tick rate this slow almost morphs the game into feeling more turn-based rather than a fluid experience. Now, obviously you can't control the length of your turn, but it's enough time to actually think in ticks, intentionally perform multiple queued actions in a single tick, and map out encounters in a tick-perfect way that is simply impossible to do in other games. This steady but slow tick system is why sometimes people refer to OSRS as a rhythm game. It's a 100 BPM song masked in an immersive medieval world. And that is fucking cool. To me, this is one of the biggest reasons that PvM and skilling can feel so satisfying. You have the ability to play perfectly. Not just really good, but actually perfect, with zero room for improvement. And that's just a warm, fuzzy feeling in the brain, at least for me. The next portion of this pillar goes hand in hand with the tick system, and that is all around how we are tile-based. We just talked about how during the creation of this game, technology was not far enough along to rapidly communicate with the server. Similarly, limitations were put in place in how the game engine interprets player, object, and NPC location. We have a map, and that map contains thousands of tiles. Any entity on this map is placed on a tile, or multiple tiles if they're larger than 1 by 1. This isn't an incredibly unique system. Most games have some form of coordinates, but what makes OSRS stand out is that the tiles are very large, and also the direction a character or NPC is facing is not actually a server-side stored value. This simplifies gameplay much like the tick system. There aren't thousands of options in how you interact with a piece of content. You have limited ticks and limited tiles. And as we all know, limitations breed creativity. Shout out to all the Snowflake accounts out there. My main point though is that this concept does not only apply to content, it also applies to gameplay. Another cool side note here is that player pathing along tiles is deterministic, meaning that clicking from tile A to tile B with the same blocking obstacles in place will always take the exact same path to reach the destination. You combine this with the slow tick system and large tiles that we talked about, and it creates that fluid, rhythmic, predictable feel that is unique to old school RuneScape. Because of this, we've seen emergent methods come out like 4-to-1 Olm, Door Alter Bandos, and Wooks Walking at Vorkath. And lastly, let's talk about how this game is point and click. Every single primary action that gets sent to the server is done via a click on the screen. You want to move forward, you click a tile. You want to swing your sword, you click an enemy. Now personally, I've gotten so used to this style of gameplay that it doesn't feel odd to me at all. But when you think of nearly any other game, you move with WASD, interact with various keyboard presses, and certainly do your fair share of clicking, but it's not just point and click. This opinionated method of player command is absolutely part of the identity of the game and should never be changed. Adding something like hotkeys for eating food or activating prayers, that to me falls solidly into the camp of not feeling old school. Alright, that was a beefy first pillar, but it's one that I definitely feel passionate about being vital to the identity of the game, so I wanted to spend some time on it. Next up, let's talk about dopamine diversity. So RuneScape is huge. At the time of this video, there are 24 skills, over 50 unique bosses, and over 1,700 collection log slots. There is enough content to fill a lifetime. And that's not a hyperbole. I am actually talking about someone's entire life. We see a lot of discussion on if it's even possible to actually complete the collection log. My take, please don't do that. That would be pretty concerning. Maybe go outside. Maybe I should take my own advice. But anyway, the thing that's special about this game is that the content is so wildly varied. In the same day, you can go star mining, where you're clicking once every 7 minutes, and then go send Inferno speedrun attempts, where your APM is through the roof and your click precision is required to have pinpoint accuracy. And the same applies for actual rewards you get in the game too. Achieving level 40 attack to hold a rune weapon, obtaining a quest cape, or finally getting your favorite pet. These are all completely different experiences that you as a player go through. This variety is why I consider old school RuneScape one of the most immersive games of all time. Not in the way that you forget you're playing a game, but in the way that it almost parallels real life. Now, that's incredibly nerdy to equate RuneScape to life, but stick with me, I do think there's something to it. So in the same way that you could grind out your job for a steady paycheck, you can grind out rooftops for 99 agility. And in the same way that you could stumble upon your future wife by sheer serendipity, you could pull a third age bow from that clue that you almost left on the ground during your Slayer task. Now, hopefully the meeting your wife thing is more important, but knowing us, maybe not. At the end of the day, though, this game is about the grind. That's not news to anyone. But the grind has variety, and variety is the spice of life. You have content that is linearly rewarding, like training your skills, and content that is a lottery system, like pet hunting. In both cases, you are hunting the dopamine of achieving a personal goal that you set out to, but the pathway to two different goals is more often than not incredibly different from one another. My point about this being similar to real life is why RuneScape is an escape for a lot of people. It's life, but in a fun, simple to understand way with clearly marked milestones and goals to set out and achieve. If this game was only skilling, it would be an idle game. If it was only bossing, it would be an action game. If it was only hunting rare drops, it would be a casino. But since it's all of it together, it's RuneScape. Alright, I might have gone a little bit too deep there. Let's move on to the last pillar. As mentioned towards the start of this video, when the great WoW content creator migration happened, many of them cited how much that they enjoyed that old school RuneScape had permanent, long-term progression. It's something that a lot of us take for granted at this point, but many other games have seasonal resets or massive expansions that invalidate your achievements. These type of sweeping updates are not inherently bad, they're full of hype and level the playing ground for anyone that has taken a break from the game. However, it also creates an underlying sense of FOMO, or fear of missing out, where you can really only enjoy content for a certain period of time before the next hot thing comes out. Thus, you feel somewhat of an obligation to play when these massive updates hit. OSRS, on the other hand, went the opposite direction. Jagex puts heavy emphasis on horizontal progression and preventing newer content from invalidating older content. And while with any live service game power creep is inevitable, it's brought into this game meticulously and slowly. This game design direction allows players to play when they want to instead of feeling like they have to. When you achieve something, it's yours for the rest of time. And while maybe someday a shiny new item will outclass it, it will likely only barely outclass it. So, permanence of progression is important to the identity of the game. Let's talk about how old school RuneScape achieves it. Firstly, you can't move backwards. When you get XP, a new collection log slot, or complete a quest, it's yours forever. You don't lose these things on death, which aids in keeping your progress feel permanent and meaningful. Now, of course, there are exceptions, such as venturing out into the wilderness or playing a hardcore Iron Man, but for most players, almost anything they achieve is an achievement forever, written in stone. Secondly, and one of my favorite aspects of all of this, is that you can master everything in this game. There are no classes you have to lean into, or permanent choices that you may regret down the line. This fulfills that adventurer fantasy where you start out as an average Joe, but you have the ability to conquer anything with enough determination. If you had to decide between being a warrior, major, or ranger, it would completely change the game. You would need multiple accounts if you wish to experience every piece of content, and combat encounters would need a completely different design since hybriding and tri-breeding would be off the table. And yes, I know Shield of Arav exists where you permanently choose between Black Arm and Phoenix Gang, but I'm pretty sure that's literally the only permanent choice you make in the game, and it doesn't actually change any gameplay outside of that quest and heroes. Last off, as mentioned before, there is an emphasis on horizontal progression by the developers. Once in a while, we will just get a direct upgrade to an item, but that's rare and it's implemented in a meaningful way. A lot of the time, Jagex will leverage what we know as attachmentscape, where instead of a new best-in-slot item just dropping on the ground, a new component drops instead that you have to combine with the old best-in-slot. This keeps the old content relevant and necessary, while retaining the hype and excitement of the new content. Now, there are some cases where I don't completely agree with how complex these attachmentscape trees are, but the underlying care and emphasis on not making your past achievements invalidated is definitely a core part of the identity of RuneScape. Alright, that was a big old yap session, but there you have it. These three pillars are, in my opinion, why RuneScape is fun, and unlike any other game out there. The combination of unique game mechanics, variety in achievement and content, and permanent upward trajectory of your player's progression really is what makes this game special. It's satisfying to play and immersive in a way that is honestly unexpected. I know a lot of us always have very strong opinions about the game, and that sometimes leads to negativity during discussion. But I think it's important to remember how lucky we are to have this game and keep in mind that we're playing for fun. Last thing I'll say is that I was recently on the Sebe cast, and we had a lot of awesome discussion about game design, reward space, AI's impact on content development, tons of good stuff in there. So if you're interested, check it out. I'll put a link in the description. And also feel free to subscribe while you're down there if you like these styles of videos. Thanks for watching. Until next time.